If loving a lonely dog is a crime, then I am guilty, Your Honor." Those words, spoken by an 5-year-old woman with trembling hands, froze the entire courtroom. Across from her sat the angry neighbor who claimed she stole his dog by feeding it daily. But the truth wasn't about food. It was about warmth, neglect, and a secret the courtroom wasn't ready to hear. On the edge of a small American town, where oak trees bend gently toward cracked sidewalks, lived Mrs. Eleanor Briggs, 85, white, widowed, walking with a soft stoop and a cane polished smooth by years of use. Her house was tiny, her days were quiet, her nights lonelier than she ever admitted. That loneliness used to crush her chest in the early hours, especially after her husband passed and her children moved away, until, one autumn afternoon, a dog appeared at her back porch. A brown mutt with white paws, thin, skittish, head hanging like he expected to be scolded. Eleanor whispered, "Hello there, sweetheart." The dog lifted its eyes. Something in their sadness was familiar, like looking into a mirror of her own heart. She placed a bowl of warm stew outside. The dog devoured it, tail wagging gently but still cautious, as if afraid joy might be taken away. The next morning, he returned, and the next, and the next. She learned his name when she overheard neighbors calling him, "Rusty, get back here." But Rusty never went back. He always came to her, not for food, but for peace. His owner, Greg Sanders, mid-42s, white, rarely spoke kindly. He left Rusty outside in the cold, ignored him, shouted at him the few times he noticed him wandering. People noticed. People whispered. But no one intervened, except Eleanor. She fed Rusty warm meals, brushed his tangled fur, and let him nap near her feet while she knitted in the afternoon sun. Rusty wasn't her dog, but he felt like family. One evening, Greg stormed into her yard. "Stop feeding my dog! You're making him run away from home!" Eleanor stood her ground, though her knees trembled. "He comes here because he's cold, because he's lonely." Greg stepped closer. "Last warning, old lady." Days later, she received a court summons. Greg had filed a complaint accusing her of interfering with ownership and causing behavioral issues. The envelope shook in her hand, and suddenly, a woman who had never broken a law in her life was being dragged to court for kindness. On the day of the hearing, Rusty followed her as far as he could before a bailiff stopped him at the door. When Eleanor stood before the judge, her cane heavy, her voice thin, everyone expected a quiet apology. Instead, they heard something else. "I only gave him what he needed, and what I needed too." The judge leaned forward. But what Eleanor said next made the courtroom gasp. The courtroom felt colder than the February morning outside. Light filtered through tall windows, landing in soft stripes across the wooden floor. Eleanor stood alone, hands trembling, Rusty's absence weighing on her like a second cane she didn't have strength to hold. The judge, Marion Harlow, 63, white, stern but fair, adjusted her glasses. "Mrs. Briggs," she began, "you're accused of enticing a neighbor's dog to abandon its home. Do you deny that?" Eleanor inhaled shakily. "I deny only that I enticed him. He came because no one else cared if he did." Greg scoffed loudly. "Your Honor, she's lying. The mutt was fine until she started feeding him like some stray charity case." Murmurs rippled through the courtroom. Eleanor looked down, then lifted her eyes wet but steady. "May I say something?" The judge nodded. Eleanor glanced around at the people watching. Neighbors, clerks, a few curious strangers, and in the hallway she could hear faint scratching against the door. Rusty, still trying to reach her. Her voice shook. "I am 85 years old. I live alone. I eat alone. I sleep alone. Most days, the walls don't answer back." The room fell silent. She continued. "Rusty came to my door hungry, shivering, and afraid. I didn't steal him. I comforted him." Greg interrupted. "He's my dog. You made him ignore me." Eleanor turned toward him, something sharp flickering behind her soft eyes. "Sir, when was the last time you touched him gently? When was the last time you looked at him and he didn't flinch? Greg froze. His face twitched anger mixed with something he couldn't name. Eleanor pressed on. Dogs don't leave homes that feel like homes. A quiet gasp spread through the room. The judge watched closely, saying nothing. Eleanor then revealed something no one expected. Rusty started coming to me the week I lost my husband. The judge's expression softened. I found him sitting on my porch in the rain, soaked to the bone. I dried him, fed him, spoke to him. He listened. He's the only living thing that listens to me anymore. Her voice cracked for the first time. He saved me from nights when the silence was too heavy to bear. I didn't ask him to stay, but he did. Greg's jaw tightened. He muttered, "He's my property." The judge raised her hand sharply. Dogs are not property in this courtroom. They are responsibility. A murmur of approval swept through the gallery. The judge continued, turning to Greg. "Did you provide shelter for Rusty during winter?" Greg hesitated. He has the yard." "Did you feed him regularly?" Greg's silence was answer enough. Eleanor swallowed. "He came to me because he was cold, because he was hungry, because he needed a heart." The judge leaned back, breathing slowly. Then something unexpected happened. The courtroom door cracked open and Rusty slipped inside. He ran straight to Eleanor, pressing his body against her legs, whining softly. A bailiff rushed forward, but the judge raised her hand. "Let him stay." Rusty sat beside Eleanor as if protecting her. The judge looked from Rusty to Eleanor to Greg and then made a decision that no one in the room saw coming. Judge Harlow rose from her seat slowly, the room holding its breath. She stepped down from the bench, something judges rarely do, and approached the trembling old woman. Eleanor tried to stand straighter, but her knees wobbled. The judge reached out and gently placed her hands on Eleanor's shoulders. "Mrs. Briggs, you have done nothing wrong." A collective gasp filled the courtroom. Harlow continued. "You showed compassion where there was neglect, care where there was abandonment, and love where there was none." Eleanor's lips trembled. Rusty nudged her leg, tail wagging softly as if affirming the truth. The judge turned toward Greg. "This court hereby transfers Rusty's ownership to Mrs. Briggs on grounds of demonstrated care, welfare, and emotional necessity." Greg's mouth fell open. The room erupted into soft cheers. Eleanor covered her face with her hands, sobbing quietly. Then the judge did something no one expected. She pulled Eleanor into a warm, steady embrace. "You didn't just save a dog," she whispered. "You saved yourself, and that matters." Rusty pawed at their feet, as if asking to join the hug. Outside the window, the winter sun broke through the clouds, and the story leaves one question echoing. If kindness is a crime, would you break the law too?